first camera was a Canon EOS 2, and the reason I got the first camera is because I was a writer. And I was getting my stories published, and I thought the next step to storytelling would be to have a camera and start taking pictures. So back then it was all about lenses and film. Every camera kind of does the same thing. So I got really good lenses and got a lot of really good Kodak film and started shooting. The thing about being in a small town like Danville is, when you're a kid growing up, you're starting to discover the world, from afar. The last thing you wanted to do is be in Danville. The crew that I was running with, a bunch of skaters, and we're all kind of in the punk rock scene in the early 80s. Like, we just wanted out. We just wanted to leave Danville as quick as we could, and we did. When we were 13 years old, we were hitching rides, we were riding buses, taking BART trains, unbeknownst to our parents. Our parents had no idea what we were up to, but we were traveling around a lot, and by the time we were 16 years old, we already had a tight network of friends across the whole entire Bay Area. I think because of that, it really kind of ingrained in me the idea of travel, travel and adventure, and it's all because we wanted out of that small town, and we were willing to do anything to get out of there. So I think that's kind of stuck with me. I did do a lot of odd jobs around that time, and one of the main jobs I had was an international flight attendant, and I didn't start getting into photography till later in my flight attendant career. I did the flight attendant thing for about 12 years. I think that the last 4 or 5 years I started getting into photography, and again I started telling stories through writing, and this was just like the camera was the next step to telling stories, and I was visiting all these great places, so why not bring a camera, and it was the perfect job for that. It's like I was able to travel and go to all these great places basically for free and shoot photos, and it just kind of went hand in hand. I never would imagine that it'd become any kind of career. It was just something I did, and I'd have slideshows in my garage and just share all the photos with my friends, and in a way that's still what I'm doing. I just love taking photos and telling stories and sharing it with my friends, and it's just kind of somehow made a career out of it. I don't think one is better than the other. It's just the right tool for the right job, or it just depends on what you're into, what inspires you. I think definitely for nighttime stuff that you're shooting in low light and in the dark or at night, digital's better, but otherwise there's no better medium. I mean, there's no difference. It's just what you're inspired by. And when I choose film, a lot of the stuff that I shoot with film is kind of for my more personal stuff, family and friends. I've been working on a series of portraits. We could walk back here a little bit. I've been working on a series of portraits that I've been shooting on black and white Kodak Tri-X film, and using a Hasselblad, and I've been doing these portraits for about 10 years. So for that, I picked that camera and that film for a specific reason, but it's kind of a personal project, but just depends, it's just what inspires you for that moment, I think that comes from skateboarding. The whole thing about skateboarding when we were growing up, and I still think it's true today, is always getting out of your comfort zone. You're always trying something new, something that you've never done. Sometimes it's something that no one's ever done. And I've always loved getting out of my comfort zone in that way. And still to this day, some of the best things I've ever done have been the first time, I think there's a magic in doing something the first time that you can't reproduce, and so I'm always open to trying things that are new and trying things for the first time. and I think it just keeps you fresh. And there's a whole thing about evolution, like you can't evolve unless you're being stressed in some way. And I think in order to grow, you have to evolve and you have to stress yourself out a little bit, maybe get a little uncomfortable. And it probably goes back to skating, I think, to skateboarding back in the day. Today I'm using the Leica M10, and Leicas are just, in general, Leicas are just my favorite because they're so simple. When I take a Leica out of the box, I'm shooting within 5 minutes. There's nothing I need to learn or figure out. I don't have to Google anything to figure out my camera. It's super basic. You have your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture right at the tip of your fingers. Super easy to figure out. And I just like really simple things. And shooting with a fixed lens. Today I'm shooting with the 24. Really simple, and I think there's something about having less options. The less options you have, the more creative you have to be. So if you have limitless options, you're just I think it'd be overwhelming. I think it was who was it? It was Einstein had a closet all full of the same suits because he didn't want to be bogged down with decisions on what to wear every day. So he just wore the same suit every day. And so he was able to think of other things rather than what he was going to wear. So to me, the camera is kind of the same thing. I don't want to have to think about anything else. I just want to take a picture. And the Leica, especially the new M10, does that for me. It's just super simple and basic, and it's unassuming and small, and it's a kind of a little bit incognito, Well, try to make a long story short. In 2007, I got an email from a friend with a link to YouTube, and it's the first time I'd been on YouTube. I think YouTube just started out, and it was a video of us skating a pool in 1987, and on that list, the CC list on that email were about 15 guys that I grew up with, and some I hadn't seen since that pool session in '87. And this was before Facebook and all that, so everybody was scanning old photos and sharing them with the email chain. And I was just dragging them onto the desktop, and then eventually I collected over 300 photos that way. And I started to realize that this could be something pretty special, a documentation of that era done in a different way. So I started putting it together as a book, but then I no longer had that email. So the reason it took 10 years is I had to go find all those photographs and the people who took them, because most of them were somebody's mom or somebody's sister or whatever. And so that's why it took 10 years, because when I had spare time, I'd just go try to track it all down. And half the fun was being able to visit all my old friends I hadn't seen in so long and go through all those shoe boxes and find all that stuff. So it's one of those things. The process was probably better than the end result, but I don't know. It was a really fun project to be involved in and to work on for that long. It was something really fun to always have in the back of your mind, Currently, I directed I guess you can call it a mini documentary or a commercial for. It's one of those things you blur the lines a little bit, but it's for this Rivian car company. It's an electric car company. I just directed this thing for those guys and working on the edit right now. And that'll be a fun project. It's basically a profile on photographer Ben Moon, and I've known him for 15, 20 years, and it's been great to be able to document a friend like that and share it with the public. And so that should be coming out in a month or so, which will be pretty exciting. It's a good question. I don't know. There's still something about pressing the shutter and kind of hoping that you got something, and then seeing if you got it or not. It's as simple as that. It's just, I think, just the act of taking a picture, and being able to see it later or being able to share it with people. It's pretty simple. I think that's why I started in the first place. And it used to be a little more mysterious with film because you didn't know what you got. But it's still just as interesting, maybe even more interesting in some ways with digital, you know?